The next day at the station. The station is as quiet as usual when I push open the glass door and step inside. Douglas glances up at me as I walk through the doors, but that's the only greeting I get before he goes back to staring blankly out of the windows, pretending he hadn't been on his phone. At least some things never change. I head to my office to get the start on the day. A couple of hours later. The tick of the clock on my office wall seems exceptionally slow. When I glance up to find barely any of the morning has passed, I only just hold back from letting out a groan. It's easy to forget how slow days can be here when I've been wrapped up in a fast-paced mission with the agency. But my long morning is brought to a halt as a knock sounds at the door. I glance up to find Verda peering through the door. His skin has a grey undertone to it, his eyes weary with fatigue and the hem of his lab coat almost scraping the floor with how sagged his body is. Even his usual smiled greeting is strained. This is just a suggestion. I begin holding up a finger. I actually did the same gesture holding up a finger. That's funny. But there's this thing called sleep.
Sleep? What's that exactly? It sounds wonderful.
He jokes even if his voice croaks out of his throat. I sigh. You don't look like you should be working, Verda.
I'm perfectly fine enough for that, Detective.
He shuffles into the room, barely making it to one of the chairs before falling into it. Yeah, I'm going to have to dispute that. You look like you need at least a week's sleep. He sucks in a long breath and it grows a little ragged at the edges.
It's just been a long few days. I've been working on something.
And that's when it hits me. In the rush and excitement of everything happening with the Ma Alucid, I'd forgotten that I'd not stopped Verda's research on the blood. Is that what's been keeping him up? I glance over the worried wrinkles set deep into his features. What have you been working on? Another shake of his head to dismiss my question.
I'd rather not discuss it right now.
Sure. I let the word roll slowly from my lips as I retake my seat.
I've come to discuss taking some vacation time,
He explains. Vacation time? I lean back in surprise. I wasn't sure you even remembered that you could use it. He nods wearily.
Yes, it has been some time, but I have a friend in a big city who may be able to help me with my personal projects.
You do realize vacation time is supposed to be for vacation, actual resting, I explain.
As much as Eric would enjoy if I did that, this is
He glances away for a moment before looking back with determination.
important.
I drum my fingers on my desk. When did you want to take it?
I'm not sure yet, but possibly soon.
Well, whatever you need, Verda. I offer a smile with the statement.
Thank you.
He stands, though he's still wobbling and unsteady. When he turns to leave, he pauses and glances back to me.
Could you not tell Tina about this, please?
My eyes widen a little in surprise. Sure. He gives a smile of gratitude and then hobbles out of the room. When he's gone, I lean forward on my desk and press my fingers to my lips, staring out of the window for a moment. My thoughtful silence barely has time to begin before another voice bursts through any other thoughts I have. Hello, Jules. Oh, it's Farah. Okay, that's not what I was expecting. Sure. As I blink out of my thoughts, my body erupts into a swell of happiness. I look over to Farah, who is grinning at me from the doorway. Her eyes are sparkling like they're lit by sunlight, seeming to brighten even further as she strides across the room and hops up to sit on the edge of the desk just beside me. It's difficult to keep my gaze from falling to her lips as the memory of last night's kiss swirls inside my mind, making my head light. Yeah, sure, go on, talk. I lean back in my chair, watching her closely as she continues to beam with happiness. It doesn't take long for her to begin the conversation. So, she begins dragging out the word while running a finger over the top of my monitor. About last night's kiss. Ah. Look, I gotta be honest, I've never felt this way about someone before, and that kiss. She breaks once again into a smile so bright it's almost infectious. That kiss was wow, and it meant something to me. It meant a lot. She bites at her lip, seemingly to stop the stream of babbled words. Sure. Whatever. Alright, fine. Let's go with that. A smile lifts my lips, warming every part of my being with the strength of it. It meant a lot to me, too. Farah's eyes light up as she reaches out to take my hand. Really? Seriously? I wrap my fingers tighter into hers. Really? Seriously? Sure. With happiness radiating brighter than the sun from each of us, we end up locked in an embrace so tight I wonder if we'll ever let go. The zingy scent of her envelops my senses, and I let it happen as I slide my fingers over the curves of her hips. We only pull away when we start to become unbalanced. I let out a breath, which becomes ragged as I laugh softly. I want to hear that all the time. She purrs, her arms still keeping me pressed against her. What? I ask, wishing I had the lung capacity vampires apparently do. She gazes at my face before brushing the back of her fingers against my cheek. Your happiness. Can you stay for a while? I ask, suddenly unsure I want her to leave at all. She nods, letting one hand slide away from me in order to lean further back on my desk. It's my turn to watch you. Watch me? With the Ma'al who said lurking about, Ava didn't think it was a good idea for you to be left alone. Stronger in numbers and all that. She shrugs. But really, I just want any excuse to come and see you. I sit in my chair as my computer bleeps a notification. So you're going to just hang out here all day? It's only an email from the mayor stating costs for the department. Farah hops off the desk to move around my chair, her arms curling around my shoulders from behind as she leans her chin on my shoulder. That okay with you? Yeah, I do need to actually do some work. Sure, I reply, then point to my computer. I still need to actually get work done. She slides her arms out from around me and walks to flop onto one of the chairs. I'll be silent and undistracting. You won't even notice I'm here. I nod, staring back at my monitor and trying to concentrate on work, which is made very difficult under her glimmering gaze. Towards the end of the day, Bra had managed silent and understanding for maybe 2 hours before she'd begun trying to amuse herself with things about my office. That is so much longer than I'd thought she'd hold out. First was sharpening all the pencils in the room, then the station. Second came watering the plants, which resulted in small puddles everywhere. Third was the heavy sighs as she puzzled through all the posters dotted about the station. Now, finally, it's led to trying to organize my files. I watch out of the corner of my eye as the files balance precariously in the in-tray and proceed to topple down into a cascade of paper and notes which carpet the floor. Ah, crap! Bra groans, instantly dropping to her knees to gather the papers, but instead crinkling most of them in the process. That wasn't supposed to happen. Well, she's busy. Go on. I glance around my computer to watch as she continues to drag papers towards herself in a messy pile. You know, I was like this when I joined Unit Bravo too. She chuckles to sound almost distant, lost in memory. That was 7 years ago, though, right? She brightens. You remembered. She then shakes her head as she recalls my question. Yeah, I was pretty lucky to get to team up with them too. The opening in their unit had only just happened as I popped through the portal. I take the files she hands me, our touch lingering for a moment longer than needed. An opening? You mean there was a team member before you? Sure. She settles on one of the chairs again. Agency field teams are usually made up of 4 people, except in special circumstances. When Unit Bravo's ex-member left, I filled that hole. Was that difficult? It was a bit at first, she admits. I just wanted to see and explore everything, but instead I had to conform to rules. The groaning tone to her voice makes it obvious what she had thought of that. At least Nat was a better language teacher than the one the agency stuck me with originally. I lean my chin on my hand. You had a language teacher? Sure, I inherited my accent from them, she says with a wink. Most supernatural from the Echo world have to learn some kind of communication quickly. There's no language from this world in the Echo world, only Echolian. She explains casually as though all of this is obvious. Nat was seriously patient. Only took me a few months before I was fluent after I joined Unit Bravo. Mind you, I still struggle with other languages, but it's nice to get to this point. Leaning back in my chair, I take in this new information, adding it to the piles I'm already trying to work through about this new world and everything in it. Now then, since we're alone, she says in a sultry tone as her smile slowly breaks into a bright grin. How about you teach me about these paper airplanes you mentioned? Bad for Ra. No reward for making a mess. Sure, let's go with that. Fine, I say with a reluctant nod, though I follow it with a chuckle. But I'm not going to take the blame when Ava finds out. Yeah, No, it might lighten her up a little. Farah jokes as she bounds off of the chair to join me at the desk, where I grab a piece of paper. After quickly checking that it's not important, I begin to fold it simply and slowly into a plane. Lifting it up, I turn it in my hand. See? Not so difficult. Oh man. Ra takes the plane after I offer it, then lets it loose. It collides into the far wall, where its nose gets crumpled and then tumbles to the floor. We both wince before her eyes begin to shine with mischief. My turn. I shake my head but can't help smiling. Evening, still at the station. After a forest's worth of paper, Farah has finally gotten the knack of the planes. We both begin busily folding again, my fingers sore from the repetition, but I push through it. As we lift our planes together side by side, Farah gives a small nod and then we let them loose. Farah's drifts through the air beside mine, looking as though it might overtake, but then it wobbles violently and meets a tragic end by smashing into the nearby filing cabinet. I lean forward on my desk with pride as my plane continues to soar through the air before making a smooth landing all the way near the front desk. Whoa, nice glide, Farah calls, but she is interrupted as her phone chirps in her jeans pocket. She drags it out to answer it as I pick up the planes. It's over already? Farah glances at the clock and lets out a heavy sigh. Guess I'll head back then. She ends the call, slips the phone back into her pocket, and turns to me with a heavy sigh. You've got to go? I ask, already knowing the answer. Yeah. Another heavy breath follows the words. But now I kind of don't want to leave, even if I have to. Sure will hug her goodbye. I chuckle, stepping closer as our arms wrap around each other. Even if our relationship is new, it doesn't feel that way when we're together. It's comfortable and safe and has my heart thrumming with more happiness than I've ever felt before. We pull away to rest our foreheads together, then end up in another hug that neither of us wants to pull away from. It's 10 minutes before we realize the time. Ah, crap! Farah groans. I better get going. Her grin lights the room as she looks at me. See you later. I hope so, I reply with a beaming smile of my own. Her hands reluctantly part as Farah makes her way from the room, and I let out a soft breath as I watch her go. As I wander to the door to watch while Farah gets ready to leave, I'm joined by a welcomed figure who leans against the doorway beside me, stirring a heap of sugar into her coffee. Oh, there she is. You're going to make us all jealous, Tina comments, taking a sip of her drink. A stream of steam from the mug flutters as she lets out a longing sigh. What? I ask with a frown. Look at her, she explains. It's like she's forgotten how to walk when looking at you. My eyes flicker to Farah, who is indeed staring back at me with one hand on the door. I forgot my train of thought for a moment. Isn't your shift over? Tina asks casually. I shake my head to clear my mind. The glass doors creak open as Farah leaves. Yeah, I'm just about to head home. She pats me on the arm. Have a good night then. Think of poor old me with still hours of my shift to go. I nod, my head once more full with thoughts of Farah. Later that evening at my apartment. The soft puddle of warm light from my lamp glows over my bedding as I plump my pillows ready for bed. A full night's rest will be very welcome. And won't happen. Moving to the bathroom, I start my usual routine of getting ready for bed until I hear a sound like rippling water echo from behind me. I swing around and come face to face with Falk, the Ma Aluset leader, stepping through the now liquid surface of my bedroom mirror. He stands a few feet away, not making any sign of aggression or hostility, just standing there. You know, I begin with a raised brow, a door works just as well. We have no use of human barriers, he replies with a flick of his wrist. Yeah, well, humans do. Maybe think about that next time. I quip. I doubt there will be another reason for me to visit, he replies in a monotone way. What do you want? To talk. About? I ask warily. He slinks a step further into the room. About your agency. I glance over him as I wait for him to continue. He's dressed in a similar outfit to the one he'd worn before. This time, though, instead of a form-fitting leather tunic, he wears one made of flowing cotton with cream embroidery detailing the sleeves. Considering the guy lives in a cave, he has quite a fancy wardrobe. I trust very few people in life, he states, and no organizations. Except your own? I ask. We're not an organization, we merely are. He begins to pace with short strides in front of the mirror as he talks. But I have been, he chews on the words, persuaded to truly consider your agency's offer by others in my fold. I shift my weight from one foot to the other in confusion. What do you want from me? He spreads his hands out in front of him. Your opinion. On the agency? I clarify. He nods, a few strands of long white hair falling from the mohawk to brush against his sharp pale cheekbone. You are an individual, not the group as a whole. I trust that opinion more. Hmm. That's difficult. Let's actually go with that. What I think really doesn't matter in this situation, I reply. Only what you do. You won't try to persuade me to their cause? He asks with confused, narrowed eyes. No, your choice in this matter shouldn't be influenced by me or anyone else. I gesture to him. It really needs to be your decision only. Hmm. He tilts his head to one side. I appreciate your answer in this. I'm surprised you'd want the opinion of a human, I comment. It's not something I seek out, he chuckles, the sound of it like the grating of rocks. But you're different, aren't you? There's a strange drop to his voice, his eyes zeroing in on me with the precision of a predator. My eyes shift to my gun nearby as an unease runs up my spine at this turn in conversation. But first you confused us with how silent you are inside. His feet slide over the carpet as he moves closer to me. Something unexpected, something new. He slithers another step forward, and then I began to hear rumors. This makes me stiffen. Rumors? The supernaturals in this out-of-the-way town talk of someone here, a human with ability, with power. He's almost on top of me now, but thankfully I'm tall enough to meet his gaze as he nears. I hold my ground without flinching. It would explain why I can't read you, why Sanja can't read you. His dark eyes trail over me. To think a mere human has the power to stop so many supernaturals, or to give them such strength. But don't worry, Detective Langford, you have nothing to fear from me. I may not be able to read you, but I am beginning to find a respect for you. Then he simply spins around to leave through the mirror. I step forward before he can. Where did you hear the rumor? He pauses, turning back to face me in a smooth move. I was approached by the supernaturals your agency tried to keep hidden. What? These rogue supernaturals. He cocks his head slightly, causing his long strands of hair to fall against his shoulder. They are banded together and have a leader. It was she who approached me. I try not to let the confusion show in my face. I certainly wasn't told about any leader. My focus is drawn back to Falk, when he stares at me for a moment in inspection. You remind me of her, he points to my face. Something about the eyes. He lets his hand drop back to his side. You should be careful, Detective Langford. I read her, I saw her deeds, and there was no guilt in her, only hunger. That makes her formidable. Unsure of what to say to this sudden revelation, I give a nod of appreciation. Then he turns on the spot and steps through the mirror. My reflection stares at me as I ponder over this new, and more than a little worrying information. Then I cover the mirror with a blanket. Next chapter.